Okay, here we go, and good afternoon, and thank you for your patience while we're sorting out the technical aspect with load shedding and running around to find a place to connect. And so thanks for your patience. Thanks for staying with us. It is the Faith Heroes, Kupat Kumafani Conversations. And you know, it's Moses Part 3. The entire crew is here. Pastor Mapumulo, the producer, Pastor Stu Blose is here. Nokanyo Moya brand yakhe Mama Maceba, City Kanyora Moyake brand yakhe Mama Maceba. She is here with us as well. We'd have to welcome you then this Sabbath afternoon, this Saturday afternoon, the 12th of the 12th month. Okay, that's where we are. The 12th, there's something about number 12. Okay, and I know the crew can play around with that. Number 12. Wow, the 12 disciples, the 12 tribes of Judah, the 12 gates into the city. And so there's so much about number 12. It is the 12th of the 12th, 2020. And we're doing Moses Part 3. And good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the crew. Pastor Mapumulo, are you good?
Super. I'm ready. And it's beautiful weather today. And I know that God is going to make this Moses Part 3 a great one also for the rest of us.
Lovely. Okay. And let me ask the ninja to the viewers, Ninja Pastor Stu Blose, and just say hi to the viewers this afternoon.
No, thank you for having me here. Ciao, Ngwenya. Greetings to you and the saints who are watching us.
Great.
All right. And then they usually say ladies first. And we save the best for last. Okay. Kanyora, good afternoon to you. And it's good to have you.
Thank you very much, Chow. Good afternoon to you. And good afternoon to the viewers of the show. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to, from the onset, ask Ingwenya Mapumulo to just to take us through and probably link where we left it. I know that my picture is a bit freezing this afternoon. Apologies for that. The staff kwenye ivengile namhlanje kuba kwi-area yam kukho i-load shedding abaleka ndafumana ivekile ukusasazela evenkileni ingathi i-OB outside broadcast ukusasazela evenkileni namhlanje and up in North Wake. Okay, so if the picture keeps freezing, please bear with me. But most importantly, the pictures of the panel don't freeze, and those are the most important people this afternoon. Wenya, where did we leave it, and where are we taking it this afternoon?
Well, great. Thank you very much, Wenya. And I pray that your screen will stop freezing. I mean, we are in the dead of summer right now. We don't want any freezing. Look, last time we spoke about, we discussed Moses in the burning bush. Great discussion that we had there. And we left everything when now Moses has been asked by God to go to Egypt. It's been over 40 years now that Moses had been away. And he finds himself in this particular situation where God says, I've got a mission. And this mission that I have, I want you to be the one spearheading it. But I will be with you. And I can imagine the thoughts running in Moses' head, because Moses never left Egypt with a great farewell. So he was thinking to himself, man, my sins are going to catch up with me. How am I going to deal with Pharaoh and even some Israelites, especially those that were in the presence of the killing act of an Egyptian. So today we want to look at the encounter of Moses with Pharaoh, which includes, of course, the 10 plagues. But here's something that is important, though, is that as Moses traversed from the burning bush, from Midian to Egypt, obviously there are quite a number of things that are in his head, given the fact that he had told God why he was not up for the mission. He had excuses, one excuse after the other. But with every excuse, God gave him assurance. Now, here's something that is quite interesting. As we pick up the story today, as Moses travels to Egypt, then God speaks to Aaron. They have not seen each other for 40 years. And he says to him, go to the wilderness and meet Moses. And Moses and Aaron, of course, travels to the wilderness. Lo and behold, here is Moses. They had not met. What a reunion between these two brothers. Now the Bible says when they had met and there was an excitement, they wanted to talk to the leadership of Israel, and the people there, after having heard what Aaron had said and Moses, the Bible says they bowed down and worshipped. In other words, they was excited. They then believed that truly God has visited them. Now, here's something very interesting in this part of the story that I want us to begin with. Number one is that Moses, when God tells him to go to Egypt, Moses shared his God encounter with Aaron, but not with Jethro. Stay with me. Number two, so Moses parts with Zipporah. Aaron comes into the picture. Now, and why am I saying these things? And I'm saying these points for the following reason: that God knows the kind of person who will support you in your journey of life, and that is why when you have a mission, when you have a conviction, when you have a burden in your heart, that you must never share it with everybody, because there are people whose mission is to kill visions of other people. So that is why Moses would not share what God had told him right in Midian with everybody, but he was selective. So he comes to Aaron and he tells him what God had told him. But quite interestingly also, Aaron does the same. He tells Moses what God had told him. So in other words, good people, everyone, including you today that you're with us, everybody on earth needs an Aaron in his life or in her life. And more importantly also, that God knows where your Aaron is. And so that is why we must be very prayerful when we have a vision, when we have a mission to accomplish, when we have a burden, when we have a problem to resolve. We must put God first, because God then will be able to show you where your Aaron is. And so Moses then leaves Midian after 40 years of exile, of loneliness, or of leading the sheep, and he goes to Egypt. And he begins now another 40-year period of miracles, of leading, this over a million of people from Egypt to the promised land. And he goes there to experience a unique pressure of leading God's people. So God, as we travel through life, God trains us, puts us in our own wilderness, so that he can prepare us to fulfill great things in our lives. So what am I saying, therefore, as we begin? And that is all of us, I mean, all of us, have a mission to achieve. Now, here's the question. The question is, have you established what your mission is? Because our missions may not necessarily be the same. But the question is, have you established your mission? If you haven't, I think the time has come for you to wrestle with the Lord, to ask you to show you what your mission is, and then get on your mission. But remember in your mission that God knows your Aaron, and if you listen to the Lord, He will lead you to your Aaron. Thank you, well.
Very, very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Ngwenya. Very interesting. The life of Moses has great episodes. It has quadrants, the first 40 years, the second 40 years, the last 40 years, or the next 40 years. And then it also has strategic alliances, people whom God brings into the picture. And today then we hear about Aaron coming into the picture. Okay, I'm going to leave it to the panel now to take it. The role of Aaron and Ngwenya, you had some very interesting interpretations and applications about Aaron, and people already are commenting about an Aaron that God will bring to you in your life. I would love that Maceba kaungene umfundisi Mapumulo uthi this second 40 because 40 years is got Moses. It's very interesting. It's got miracles. Sometimes it's got lack of confidence, and I want us to pull out, those things which when we look at, we feel that we really should learn from. In this next 40 years, he's done with Midian. So talk to me. What is it that, as you were preparing for the show, you thought probably we needed to zoom into Maceba?
All right. So thanks, Chawe, and let me greet the saints once again. I'm just listening to Ngwenya here, and he's taking it nicely from where we left off last time, from the burning bush. And one of the things that we articulated last time, in as far as the burning bush is concerned, was the fact that this bush is different. And even Moses remarks that what stood out for him about the bush is that this bush was burning, but it was not being consumed. And of course we went into the whole thing about miracles in that. Now, what stands out for Moses is that this bush, or this fire, right, is able to occupy a bush without consuming the bush. This fire is able to sustain itself without taking from the bush. This fire is able to burn without sustenance from the bush. However, the residence, or this fire being resident on the bush, brings significance. It brings attention to the bush, which is what draws Moses to the bush, right? Let me say this is my first point. And of course, I must quote and I must reference my good friend Nokanyo Maceba for this point. In that for us to be significant, it is not what we possess that makes us significant. It is not what we have. It is not our competencies that make us significant, that draw attention unto us. It is not who we are. It is not what we are. It is not how we speak. It is not even the things that we possess that make us who we are. But it is the one who is resident on us, who is resident in us, who possesses us, who occupies us. Let me say that. So it is not what we have managed to accumulate that gives us significance, but it is the one who has been able to gather us unto himself. This God who is able to dwell not only within us, but with us, and in him dwelling with us, he draws all men unto himself. Now the problem is when he draws men unto himself, they come towards us, not because they are coming to us, but they are coming to the one who is with us. Now, it often looks like when men are drawn to the presence of God in our lives, it often looks like they are celebrating us, they are worshiping us, and at times we incorrectly appropriate and capture and colonize this attention that is meant for God, this adoration that is meant for God, this worship that is meant for God, and we internalize it and assume that it is meant for us. Remember, you are just a bush. It is the fire that draws attention. It is the fire that is significant, that is able to be self-sustaining and self-derived without your assistance. And your significance, it derives and comes from the fact that this fire is resident and present in your life. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. Number two is this protest by Moses when God says, I'm going to send you to Egypt to go and get my people. Moses' protest, right, again, is symptomatic of this, of man's ability and temptation to personalize and internalize God's mission and God's programs and make them their own. And that is why they seem daunting and they seem intimidating. It is because we take the size of the task ahead of us, right? And we compare our abilities to the size of the task. We compare our size to the size of the task ahead of us. When we internalize the task, when we then appropriate, when we then capture the mission and make it about ourselves, not forgetting that the one who is with us is for us and is greater than what lies ahead of us or than what stands before us. And so he who calls you, right, into this great mission is greater than the mission he has called you unto. And so when you need to assess, when you need to evaluate your role, your significance, your ability to handle what God has called you to, don't look at what is in your hand. Look at the one who is asking you what is in your hand. For the strength, the power, and the efficacy of what is in your hand is magnified by the one who asks you what is in your hand. Right? So the deliverance of Israel, or the children of Israel, seems like a daunting task. To walk into an empire and request a king of an empire to deliver and to relieve slaves that he has held in his, that have been in his family for centuries, is a daunting task. If you look at Moses as a runaway former royal, as you look at Moses as a single man, but it is when you consider the fact that Moses is in the presence of God. By the way, this God who is a fire that burns without being consumed. In other words, just as the fire is able to burn without any assistance, without using and utilizing the bush, God can deliver on his mission. He can deliver his people without you. He's just chosen you as a vessel on which he can ride. He doesn't need you to participate actively. He doesn't need your skills. He doesn't need your talents. He just needs your availability and your willingness. And then he magnifies whatever it is that you are bringing unto him. So you're not called because of what you have, but you are called because you can be utilized. You can be used by the one who calls you. And so, Chawe, I want to just maybe for a moment here focus on people who are overcome with self-doubt, people who are overcome with low self-esteem, with this tendency to suppress and to look down upon their own talents and their own abilities. And as Pastor Mapumulo has said, that God is not calling you because you are eloquent. He's not calling you because you are articulate. He's not calling you because of how great your talents are. Nor is he calling you because the task ahead of you is not significant or great enough. But he is calling you, and in his calling you, he has already prepared an Aaron. He has already prepared an Aaron who will supplement your inadequacies, who will supplement your shortcomings. In other words, you are called with your shortcomings. Not your shortcomings to God are not a hindrance. They're not a stumbling block. They're an opportunity to involve more people in the mission. Let me say that again. Your shortcomings, your hindrances, your inabilities, your inadequacies are not a stumbling block to delivering God's mission, but they're an opportunity for God to invite yet more people to get involved in this mission, in this work. So don't deny, don't refuse a call to the mission simply because you feel inadequate. God doesn't need perfect people. He needs people who are inadequate. He needs people who are insufficient. He needs people who will be fully reliant and fully dependent upon him. He needs people who are going to make room for the involvement of others.
I have heard, Maceba, somebody say that God does not call the qualified, but he qualifies those he calls. God does not call the perfect, but he makes perfect those he calls. Kanyora, how do we see this in the life of Moses, particularly in this second 40 yake, where he begins with excuses, and I love what Ninja has said. And if God really does not call perfect, but he perfects the ones he has called, Apagu Moses, how do we see that, and where do we grow because of Moses's life at this particular juncture?
Thank you very much, Chawe. Pardon me, since I was not around last time. As I was reading the Bible, I came across something, Ninja, which moved me. One of those things was when you get to chapter 3 of Exodus, for a very long time, it's God who's saying, I have seen the afflictions of my people. And he says, I've heard their cry and I have come down. Before there is a Moses in a picture, God has his people in the mind. So the bigger picture or the bigger agenda are God's people, not Moses. Let me put an emphasis here. Because one, Moses, when we see Moses as a steering, we need to understand that Moses comes into the picture, Ninja, because God saw his people and God had the cries of his people. So because of that, God had a man for that hour. So Moses is a man of a moment, and he will live for that moment. And when that is done, he will exit. The problem is that we make ourselves a protagonist or a main character in the bigger picture of salvation of men, because we do not understand what is the bigger agenda or the important agenda. Now, when you read Exodus chapter 3, this I've had my people, I've seen their afflictions, and then because it's a roadblock, because there is a man who is needed for this hour, but this man is a fugitive. This man is on the run. This man has things that are following him. This man is not good. This man is not perfect. This man une dog head, une criminal record, anayo. But having all that in front of him, Uchiko, that thing does not stop him from approaching Moses. Let me put an emphasis on that, God, knowing that this man has just killed a man in Egypt, but did not stop God from using Moses to go and rescue his people. But when God chooses us, it is not because we are righteous or because he's clueless or unmindful of our sinful nature. God uses us, sinful as we are, because he knows, sinners as we are, but we are able, when he is in us, to do exceedingly and abundantly more. Now, when it comes to this, because yesterday he was a nobody. So today God is going to use him, not because he's right, not because he's perfect. That's why as we proceed with the story, Ninja, you will see that when he's serious, because people have decided to worship idols, he decides to drop the tablets or the scroll, the 10 Commandments. And he even says, all of a sudden, he thinks this is about him. He's bigger than the people. He's bigger than he exists because of the people. He was called because of the people. So at no stage we should exalt ourselves to be bigger than what we are called for. At no stage we should exalt ourselves to be bigger than the message, the gospel. Now, the point of and then he zooms down and he says, Moses, I want you to go back to Pharaoh. Now, the point is, this moved me so much when I was reading this. Mamela, it reminded me of what my mother used to do to me. I will be so scared at the street. Maybe I had a fight or someone was bullying me, and I would decide to go home because I was running away from whatever or whoever who was giving me tough time. Then after running, I will go home and my mother would see me crying and she would ask me, what is your problem? What's wrong? And I would tell her that so-and-so is giving me tough time out there. And this is what most of the parents does, especially black parents, Ninja. She would say, oh, and then she would say, I ran from that person because that person is bullying me. I'm afraid of the anger, of the bullying of that person. I decide to go and I meet with my mother. I tell my mother that so-and-so is bullying me. I'm running away from so-and-so. But strangely, my mother would always say, go
back.
That's really back. No, there is something powerful in this. Knowing that this man is on the run, this man is running for his life, this man is dodging bullets, but God says, go. The point of power and authority that my mother would use when she says to me, Ninjuma, go and call that bully. She would size my fear. She will understand my fear that I'm scared because the power that I have is little or smaller than those of my bully. But she would know that she is more powerful than the one who's bullying me. So not intimidated by the bully as I am. So as I'm operating in a space of fear, space of independence, space of low self-esteem, but my mother will boldly say, go and call her, go and call him, go and call her to me. Now God does the same thing here. Moses is running away from an angry Pharaoh. Moses is running away from an angry Egypt. He runs away, but God meets Moses, scared, afraid, on the run, but a powerful and a God of all authority says, go back to Pharaoh. As a powerful parent, I'm not intimidated by Pharaoh. I'm not operating from a space of fear like you. I am powerful. Pharaoh must be powerful than you, but Pharaoh is a small boy to me. Go and tell Pharaoh to release my people. And imagine, Moses is like, oh, but now listen to this one. I need to touch this one. Follow. Now, you see, Moses needs from the command that he received from God, as you've touched on it, he says, but Lord, the problem is not Pharaoh. The problem is not the message, but it's me. But Lord, how will I speak with Pharaoh? Because the problem is, I'm a stutterer. You know, Lord, I've got to say, the problem is not the gospel. The problem is not the one who's sending us, but the problem is me. You know, I'm a stutterer. But the best part, as you've mentioned, Chow, that he does not call the qualified, but he qualified the call. As he's calling Moses, he had a provision that he has made all alone. So Moses was yet to discover. And indeed, there are things that God has sent us to do in this world. And in our inadequacies, at times we look down on the gospel. We look down on what God is sending us to do. At times it's too big, Ninja. It scares us. At times we tend to compare ourselves with what we are called to do, and we tend to say it's not doable, it's not possible. I don't know what it takes. I'm here to tell you, unyansile, and you not do it because it's you have what it takes. You will do it because He has made a provision before the foundations of the earth. You still to live to discover God's provision that He has made for you. Already a mouthpiece was prepared for him, which was Aaron. For every Moses, Ninja, for every Moses, there is an Aaron. Right? Who tell Pastor Mapumulo you need an Aaron? But I'm convinced that for every person who's assigned a task, God has an Aaron. The best part about Aaron was a complement, a support system of the ministry. Now, throne, Akaso staring, but the support system. Hey, I've seen many people struggling to find comfort in being Aaron, because we all want to be Moses. Because I sneak a light in Aaron, because we are playing at the backstage now, being Moses. It makes sense. It gives us attention, it draws people towards us. So we're not comfortable in being Aaron. But one thing I know is that whatever mission and ministry was given to Moses, without an Aaron, that ministry would not have been a success. So the time Aaron Moses in the picture, Aaron who's gonna play at backstage, Aaron also insignificant, but Aaron also major part of the ministry, major part of the mission. But I don't want to lie to you. No matter how small, some of us they are not the ministers, but they are those who are there to support in ministry. Means I want to believe for your ministry, God has an Aaron in place for you. And the best part about it is that it is not up to you to go around looking for your Aaron. God at the right time connects Moses no Aaron. At the right time, God connects Moses no Aaron. But I want to show you. There are times up in the story, you will see now you Aaron being uncomfortable playing backstage. Now you will see there will be times in the ministry where God will swap at Aaron, assisting. Aaron, assisting. Come up. I want to have a meeting with you. As I'm having a meeting with you, Moses, when Aaron take charge, but in goes, when Aaron is standing, when Aaron take a position, go education Moses. When Moses came back after giving the new authority, Aaron to be an acting leader just for a few days to be an acting leader. He came back and found Aaron created the calf of gold for people. That's the danger. Your Aaron who want to assume a leadership position, to assume like Moses. In the ministry, Aaron, take your place. Moses, take your place.
Powerful stuff.
And the big question, Kanyora, the big question really is: do we accept to be an Aaron at some stage? Do we accept that we are an Aaron project for a particular leader sometimes? What do we need, Befundisbam Nawe Kanyora? What do we need in order that we may see that we are deployed by heaven to be an Aaron? What do we need in the Pagamele Lendo Aitetayo Nokanyo? I'm trying to get to grips to the reality of accepting that perhaps my ambitions are beyond what God has appointed me for, what He is qualifying me for.
Before bayikhazi ngize ngasali nalutho because niyabazi ke bayakhatha abashinex but my guiding point in this story, and if we are to help and assist Abo Aaron, bearing in mind that we could also be Aarons, I feel or I believe that we are not always, Moses is not always Moses, is not always meant to be in the forefront. There's a time when Moses might be leading the children of Israel on one side, but on the other hand, he also needs to play an Aaron role in someone's life. I think at times what we do is that we lock ourselves in one place, in one particular calling. The way the Holy Spirit works is that one day you could be a preacher, the next day you're praying for someone, the next day you're a healer, the next day you're doing Bible studies. That's how the Spirit of God works. It doesn't lock us into one gift, but it gives us gifts as and when the need arises. And so I think and I believe that at times we limit not not limit ourselves, but we limit the working of God's Spirit in its ability to make us and to call us and to use us as it sees fit and as the situation and the conditions warrant and require of us. And that's why you would have a lady, Mrs. White, who would be a prophet, a writer. She's a prophetess. She's an author on the one hand. She's a preacher on the one hand. She's a mother on the one side. Yeah, even the parenting is a calling. People always believe that this idea of being called by God for things that are greater than us only occurs outside of our homes. It's not applicable in our homes. It's not applicable in our vocations. It's only applicable in church. That what the calling is applicable and it's universal in whatever walk of life, in whatever sphere and station that God has positioned you in. You are still called. You are still called, and you are supposed to deliver excellent quality and not just mediocrity wherever you are called by God. And so you find that the Spirit of God uses us. You're not just a good leader in church, but you'll also be a good leader at work. You'll also be a good leader in your own house, in your own home, a good leader in the community. So the gifts, the spiritual gifts that you are given are not just things that are used in a sectarian, as exclusive or reclusive environment, but they're applicable in all spheres and in all areas of our lives. That's the first point that I want to say, that you're not Moses, you're not always going to be a Moses. At times you're also going to be called to play Aaron's role in someone's life. Number two, what's so weird and what's so strange with our Chawa is that you must always be wary of yourself. And this is now introspection. Be wary of yourself. When Moses is called by God, if the task for which you are called is not daunting and does not intimidate you, then you are more full of yourself than you realize, right? For every vision and mission that God calls you to, it needs to give you sleepless nights. It needs to make you feel inadequate. It needs to highlight your inadequacies, your inefficiencies, your lack of qualifications for it, so that you can see the need to be qualified by the one who has called you. Right? My problem and the challenge is that you have a lot of Aarons who qualify themselves, who do not see themselves, right? Who don't see their own inadequacies when they are called, when they assume positions and the mission, and even various stations in life. They don't see their own inadequacies, and so they enter full of themselves, and that is why they are then able, when they assume this leadership position, they are then able to replace the originator of the mission with a golden calf, right? Why? Because to them, the one who has called them is not significant, is not important. As long as they are around, the mission will survive. The mission needs them no more than they need the mission. So they have no problem. They've got no challenge replacing the one who has called them when they assume the position. That's the problem with Aaron. It is that Aaron thinks the mission is dependent on him. He thinks the mission will not survive without him. He thinks that he thinks he's deserving of the mission. He thinks he's qualified of the mission without being resourced by the one who has called him for the mission. And that is why when he assumes the reins of the mission, he replaces the one who calls, and he becomes the one who calls the one who's supposed to call you into the mission, and he erects a new God in the mission, right? And so how do you know that you are in danger of being you are in danger of being an Aaron who is too ambitious and assuming the role of Moses, when the mission doesn't intimidate you, when you feel ready and qualified for the mission, then you must know that you will also disqualify God from assisting you in the mission. And because you already feel qualified, you are self-qualified. Let me end with this. Ciao. In the book of Genesis, Abraham, God wants to test Abraham, right? And I'm going to bring it here to the story. God wants to test Abraham's faithfulness. So he says, go and sacrifice your son, right? This test belonged to Abraham. It had nothing to do with Isaac. It had nothing to do with the rest of Abraham's family. It was just to test Abraham. But Isaac was going to be sacrificed in order for Abraham to pass the test, in order for Abraham. So in other words, the target is Abraham. It is not Isaac, right? But Isaac is enlisted in this test. He becomes a participant. His obedience enables Abraham to pass the test, right? So it is in the end, ultimately, when Abraham passes the test, God doesn't say because of Isaac's obedience Therefore, Abraham has passed. It is Abraham who is praised for having faith to hear, listen, and follow God, right? So by being called, by Abraham being called, those who are in close proximity to Abraham are affected by the call of Abraham. But at the end of the success of the mission, all glory goes to Abraham, and they are almost forgotten, and they're almost forgotten. Their role in Abraham's success is forgotten. Nobody talks about Isaac's obedience, which enabled Abraham to pass the test. What am I saying to you? When God calls Moses, immediately Aaron is enlisted. He's not there at the burning bush when the calling happens, but he is enlisted at the burning bush. He has not even been consulted about Moses' calling, but with Moses being called, Aaron is already participant. Zipporah is already participant of the mission. The children are already part of the mission. And some of us, we are only called to ensure that our obedience assures and secures the success of others. And that on its own immortalizes us. That on its own gives us more significance than what we would have otherwise derived or benefited had we only existed in our little corners out there in seclusion. So when Moses is called, Aaron also becomes part of this mission of Moses, and in supporting Moses, Aaron is saved from just being another insignificant slave and a number in Egypt. You know, so don't despise the size of the role you are meant to play, the goal that is meant to be achieved. But just by your mere participation, your mere assistance, that's it. Your mere presence, that's it. That's all. It gives, it delivers much more than what would have been achieved had you remained in your own little corner. And indeed, we need Zipporah, we need Aaron, we need the children to be involved in this mission, because the mission is bigger than Moses. Alone, Moses is bound to fail. So we need the children to participate. We need his brother to participate. We need his wife to participate, because alone the mission will fail and we will die, because you are too arrogant to assume a lower position in supporting Moses.
Yeah.
Well. Thank you, Mfundisi. Kanyora, you wanted to add something? You wanted to come in?
You know, God sends Moses to go to Pharaoh and ask Pharaoh to release his people. Ne? Now, there are people abayokhululwa. Kukabantu abayokhululwa. Pharaoh examthethwa nayo. Ne? But now, Moses could have gone to Pharaoh and spoke with Pharaoh ninja. Ne? But before that, God says, go to the Israelites. Before you talk with Pharaoh, before you engage with Pharaoh, first do groundwork. Prepare the people. So it will be useless for us to get into the door and open the door, because the slaves will remain inside. Because I can't get any land. So I love how God does it, Chow. This is how he does it. He says, Jonga Moses, go back to the Israelites. Listen, Moses was taught about the God of Israelites as he was growing up. So he knows. So the very same God now appears to Moses, and then he says, go to the Israelites and say to them, now is the time, Mapumulo, so that they go and worship me. Now, if I tell them that, they will ask me, what is his name? When I say to them, the God of Israel, your God has sent me, they will ask me, who is your name? Because those people, they know you better than I, and their God says, go and say to them, I am has sent me. Jonga, Mamela, one of the things that I love about this meet, it starts with the groundwork. Before you go and open door of prison to the slaves, you need to do groundwork to prepare the people inside the prison, so that before they get out physically, you need to release, free their mind first. We need to take them out free them from the hand of Pharaoh, so that we put them in the hand of the great I am whilst they are still in Egypt. So as they are stuck in the hand of Pharaoh, once they land in the hand of the great I am, now when you say, let's go, it's time now, the doors are open, it will be easy for them to live. Now, the Itandi system, Gatiko, it reveals to us the importance of groundwork, Ninja. I have seen people rushing to do great things without doing groundwork. I have seen us doing and rushing to do great and big mega projects without investing in feasibility study, without investing in doing groundwork researches, talking to people, aligning, searching questions and answers. I have seen us rushing, Ninja, to do greater things without doing groundwork. Now, I turn to groundwork before we go to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is not my problem. My challenge, let me first go and speak to my people, because Matthew 1:21, you shall give a birth to a son, and he shall be called Jesus, for he will save his people from their sin. So in order for us to be sure that these people, when the door is open, we need to win them whilst they are still inside, so that from his Pharaoh. Now these people are so used to this vuneko, they're so used to torture and punishment of Pharaoh, but God had to come. Is that right under Pharaoh's watch, God manages to reach his people. God reaches his people. God put his people at ease. He said, I have come down for you. Now is the time for us to go. God does all that work to his people. Now, immediately, the appetite is created inside the Israelites. Now, already, the topic, the trending gospel now is that our God has come to fetch us. As he has promised the forefathers of Abraham. This is the time. This is the season. We shall remain here no more. We have an appointment to worship God out there. So the excitement of Canaan did not start when they went out of Egypt, but it started when they were still inside of Egypt. As we are struggling in this world, as we are suffering in this world, the power of our God is his ability to enter and reach his people right at the corners where they are afflicted by the devil. His ability to reach us and say, don't worry, don't panic, I have come. Already we just understand that we're just pilgrims, we're just passing by in this world. We are not citizens of this world. The appetite of the promised land starts whilst we are still inside in the bondage. We're looking forward into the beautiful land whilst we are busy burying our loved ones. So the power of this gospel, I can't miracles outside Ninja. It's the power that kicks prison doors and reaches God's people and say, shh, I've come for you. I've come for you. Whether Pharaoh wants it or not, I have come to you and I've come for you. Now this is the best part. When no Pharaoh abantu nabo sebepakisha bayibona ngoku uba hakuyahanjwa ngoku. Now we are, because their God has freed their mind, has enticed them. Jonga, there is something beyond Egypt. There is a promised land that you've learned about. I have come to make it happen. Just a little while, child. The very same thing that we are waiting for. Within a while. So another thing, child, that impressed me. Another thing that impressed me so much about this story. Jonga, Aaron abantu ke ngoku bayambona uMoses umkile. Now that Moses came killing. Oh, another thing about Moses. Another thing about Moses, he was a friend of God. Yo, Moses was a friend, Gachiko. You know, Ninja, when you talk about friend of God, Moses would delight spending time with God. Jonga, that's what made him one of the powerful leaders. In fact, many religions, ziyadibana kuMoses. Zingangadibani kuYesu, but many religions ziyadibana kuMoses. I-Judaism, i-Islam, amaKrestu, when it comes to Moses, siyadibana phaa kuMoses. Uyayazi enye yezo zinto yintoni? It is because uMoses was a friend of Jesus. Yeyi wayethanda uhlala noThixo lo mntu, wayethanda uhlala noThixo lo mntu. Jonga, ngoku ehlele entabeni enikwa le mithetho ilishumi. Apparently ngokwabantu uMoses weqile kwixesha ebebelibekile. You know, when I always say, until you find delight being in the presence of God. Zonke into zelilizwe uzibone kancinci. When you spend most of your time in the presence of God, when you spend more time with God, that's where your power is derived, Ninja. I have seen many preachers investing more in reading the Bible in the spirit of prophecy and preaching than they spend most of their time with God. Let me say that again. I have seen us investing more in preaching and preparing sermons than we prepare and spend our time with God. Our power, Ninja, is found from the time that you spend with God, more than the material that we use to prepare the message. Moses, what made him a powerful leader is that he found delight spending time with God. He was just enjoying God as he's writing down those 10 commandments. Abantu bathi, hey, silibele lo, uyaleva lo apha, ngokulate ngoku. That's where our power comes from. Spending time with God, connecting to the source.
Yeah. Uchawu samngena chawu sishushu apha sisibambezela. You chawu sisibambezela.
Look,
unmute.
It's a midsummer, man. You're muted when?
Yo chawu andifuna wamute.
Kufriza picture nengqondo Madiba.
You chawu. Kunala the second coming man chawu. Yo.
Ukulinde apho Madiba. Because uyiqalile uKanyora wathi ku-chapter 3 uthi uThixo ndisivile isikhalo sabantwana bam ndihlile. Uthi usezawuhla.
Mamen uzayivala uMapumulo ngwenye uzayivala ne?
Sure, go ahead.
Yo, kunalanto man. Ukanyora agqiba uthetha ngayo. She's just finished.
Yes.
I mean, let me not switch to vernac here. Some things, man, don't sound powerful unless they are said in Xhosa. You know, you need Xhosa just to, you know. Although, I mean, they sound holy, Zulu, but they sound powerful, Xhosa. It's holy in Zulu, it's powerful in Xhosa, yeah. But it's understandable in English. So when you Kanyor. The people in Egypt, the slaves in Egypt, are enslaved, and they have been crying out to God for a long time. God seems quiet, right? He doesn't respond to their prayers directly, but he, in the background, is responding to their prayers. I don't know if you're hearing me. So he doesn't come out with a word to assure them. He doesn't come out with a word in their prayers to say, I've heard you. But instead of responding to the prayer, he deals and he starts working on a response to the prayer, right? So while they're asking and crying and lamenting and shouting and praying to God to deliver them from Egypt, God doesn't tell them that I'm going to deliver you from Egypt, but in the background, he's working on a solution on their deliverance. He's working on their liberation in the background. background. He's already talking to Moses. He's already talking to Aaron, but they're still crying in Egypt. In fact, there are times when you feel like the duration of your prayers, right? Let me say this. The duration of your prayer, the duration of your persecution is not indicative of God's indifference to your situation. At times, it may seem as though God is quiet in your prayers simply because he's already operating around your prayers to deliver on the request of your prayers. And so as these guys are praying to be delivered from Egypt, God is already working on a deliverance plan from Egypt. That is the first one that I want to talk about. Number two, these guys are not waiting for God to deliver them. They know not the hour, not the time of his coming. They don't know when he's going to show up. They don't know when he's going to pitch up. They don't know how he's going to pitch up. All they know is that when we talk to him, he hears us. As to how he will deliver us, we are not aware. As to when he will deliver us, we are not aware. The best they can do is be ready for when he shows up, right? The best they can do is just to prepare for him when he shows up. Saints, we are not called to figure out how God will deliver us. We're not called to figure out when God will arrive. We're not called to figure out how he will show up. Nor are we even challenged or asked or requested to know how he will deliver us from our various situations and various conditions. We don't know how he will do that, when he will do that. Some suffer for 18 years, some for 16 years. Other problems, last for 38 years. We don't know when he will do that, but what we do know is that he who has promised will come and will not delay. Though the vision carries, it shall surely come, but will not delay. So what we are called to do is simply wait and trust that he will deliver on what he has promised to deliver. And so what we rely on, what we depend on, is not the articulation, is not the eloquence of our prayers, but what we depend on is on his the ability of his ear to hear, the ability of his eyes to see what is happening to us. That is what we have faith in. That is what we have belief in. Not in our ability to plead and make our cases before him, but in his ability to see our situations and then work even without consulting us on a solution to deliver us. But let me say this. The reason why the children of Israel are delivered from Egypt is not because they were able to wait for Christ to come. Man, let me say this. Let me give you this quotation. Our hope, when it matures, right, does not reveal to us that we are going home. But our hope, when it matures, reveals unto us that home is coming for us. Let me say that again. Our hope, when it matures, does not reveal to us that we are going home. Our hope, when it matures, reveals unto us that home is coming for us. Where am I getting this from? In the book of Luke chapter 15. When the son goes home, he does not reach the gates of home, yet the father runs out of his house to come to his son. He does not get home, but home comes for him in the wilderness, in his rugged stage, in his diminished stage, in his filthy state. Home comes for us and falls upon him and embraces him and hugs him. Our faith, when it evolves, when it develops, when it reaches maturity, does not teach us that we are going home, but it teaches us that home is coming for us. And my Bible tells me that there was another son outside, when the father left the party in the house and he went out. Why? Because the father is in the business of going out to fetch his children and to bring them inside the house. That is the duty, that is the responsibility, that is the obsession of the father. That is why when the Israelites were still resting in Egypt, when the Israelites were still suffering rather in Egypt, unaware, unprepared, not knowing when God will come, God through Moses and Aaron came for them in Egypt. The Bible says, God actually says, I have heard their cries, I have seen their afflictions, and now I have come down. They did not go up to him, he came to where they are. Our hope, when it matures, does not reveal to us that we are going home, but reveals to us that home is coming for us. Home is coming for us. Home is coming for us. The best thing we can do is just be ready. Just be ready. Be prepared. Be prepared. Some of our waiting will occur in the trenches of a pandemic. Some of our waiting will be uncomfortable in the trenches of unemployment. Some of our waiting will be uncomfortable in the pigsty. Some of our waiting will be done in the fields of self-righteousness, thinking that we are ready and prepared for home, only to see God come and fetch us and tell us that we are far from home, even though we thought we were closer. We were closest to home. Some of our waiting will be held in the deep trenches of poverty, and It hurts God to see us like that. And that is why I'm sure. That is why I'm sure. That is why I'm sure that God is not content. God is not pleased with your suffering. He's not pleased with your persecutions. He's not pleased with your poverty. He's not pleased with your marriage that is fracturing and falling apart. He's not pleased with you losing multiple loved ones to one single pandemic. He's not pleased with you being retrenched. He's not pleased. I know he's not. And that is why I'm sure. Don't ask me how. I'm sure he's working on a solution. There's a Moses, there's an Aaron that is being prepared to deliver you from whatever you are going through. You are not going home, but home is coming for you. Home is coming for you. Home is coming for you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Ninja.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, Ninja. We have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. And you see, there are homes that are bleeding because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
And people are looking for a home that is coming to us where there will be no COVID-19. There are families that are bearing today, there are families that are bearing tomorrow, and people are looking for a home that is coming. Parting shots. Let me go around the table. Let me come to you, Kanyora, then I'll come to you, and then see Vale for today.
Well, thank you, Wanya. Great thoughts that we have learned here today. I truly appreciate what our panelists have shared. Well, two things in the story of Moses, in this part of his story. One is the calling, the nature of the call, and this is something that's very important for us to always remember, regardless of our station of life, and that is a call is always dual in nature. If you look at the very story of Moses, God calls Moses, but he prepares an Aaron to assist Moses. When they have met in next to Horeb in the wilderness, now they are going now to meet Pharaoh, and of course, the first instruction that God gives is to meet with the leaders of Israel. And so they get to that. Here's something that is very important when they get to that, to meet with the leaders of Israel. Now, when they get to that, it's not Moses who's leading the discussion, but it's Aaron who is leading. And so Aaron explains to them the dealings of God with Moses. And he talks about the signs that Moses came with that has been given by God. That's very important. Now, what does this mean is that when God calls you, it's dual. In the process of this mission, you're going to find yourself, as God sees it fit, to be an Aaron, even though in this mission, you are a Moses. And why is this important? Because it deals with two things that are the biggest challenges of people in life generally. We see this in church every time. What are these two things? Number one is personal pride. Pride has killed a lot of us in the church, in God's work. And because when we realize, when we begin to think that we are called because there is something special in us, then that's pride visibly. Now, so God, why does God call Moses? Why does God call you? Why does God call all of us? Here is my submission here. Please listen to me on this one very careful. That is, those who need deliverance are God's choice for other people's deliverance. Now, let me repeat myself here because I don't want you to miss me here. Those, that is you and me, who are in need of deliverance, are the very targets that God has to deliver other people. In other words, when God called Moses, it was not because Moses had what it takes. God was delivering Moses himself, because Moses had issues. And you see the issues in his very own excuses when he's supposed to go to Egypt. So when he calls us, therefore, once we understand that, look, this calling is about my deliverance, then pride will never have a place in your life, because you know that I am appointed to be this leader, I'm appointed to play this role, and I've been placed in this place, not because I'm better than other people or I have what they don't have. It is because God is targeting me to be delivered from whatever that problem is. But number two, why God makes us a target in delivering other people, it's because He wants to resolve a problem that we have, that we are taught, in fact, as we go as children. You know, when babies are born, babies don't have fear. They will do anything. You will tell a child not to touch fire, but that's where he is going or she is going. Now, but over time, we teach a child to be fearful of certain things. So fear gets instilled in us as we grow. And so to such an extent that even when the call comes, whatever that your call may be, sometimes that fear comes into being and we miss an opportunity to be used by God, because when fear comes in other words, we have stopped looking at the caller, we are looking at the called. So when God wants to deliver us, when God calls us to deliver other people, He's dealing with some fears that we have. So that out of that experience, we can begin to see that even when Pharaoh says, who is this God that wants me to let go of the children of Israel? Now, Kanyora said something here earlier on about God saying, I am. You know, if you look at the history of the Egyptians, because there is history behind this, because God was saying this purposely. This was an answer that was given to Pharaoh for a specific purpose. Why? Because when you go to the temple of the pharaohs in Egypt, you will find the inscription that says, I am that which was and is and shall be, and no man has lifted my veil. Let me repeat myself. So this is how the pharaohs regarded themselves. It's written in the temple of the pharaohs, I am that which was and is and shall be, and no man has lifted my veil. Now God says this to Moses to tell Pharaoh, because he's dealing with Pharaoh's mindset. He's dealing with Pharaoh's personal pride. Now, you see, pharaohs were more than human beings, were regarded as being gods. So God has a reason why He does what He does. He has a purpose to say what He says. He has a purpose why He calls us when He calls us. And therefore, wherever you may be, as you listen to us, as you watch us today, I want you to remember the following, that God has called you because you need deliverance, because I need deliverance. It's not about other people. When we relieve suffering from people, they don't have food, we give food. They don't have money, we give money. They can't do this, we do this. It is not because we have, it is because God is resolving, is delivering us. There is something in us that God wants to deliver, because He doesn't need that. He can deliver them without us. And this for me is very critical, because these are the two things that are a stumbling block in spiritual growth. Now, if we can overcome, if we can have that mindset, and I really believe that we would go far in serving the Lord. And that's what will also help us to see our home coming to us. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Ngwen. Thank you. Friends, we've come to the end. Kanyora, I just need you to wrap it up. Ne-noise levels ziya pick up. Kuyacaca into yoba ndiyibolekiwe le ndawo ndikuyo. And I would then want you to wrap it up and close it for me. Kwelami icala ndivalelise ngoba noise iyanyuka kule ndawo ndikuyo.
Thank you very much, Shawa. From all that Pastor Mapumulo has said, let me also add this point also, which I was hoping that since I believe we are wrapping up this Moses today, but let's all agree that the life of Moses is too big. And I want to believe that we might In fact, it needs the whole year for us to discuss the life of Moses. But another thing that moved me more than anything, it was when God now was saying, Jonah, go to Pharaoh. Now, Uti, what if they do not believe me? Uti, then find that's when we will give miracles to make them believe. On this one, Ninja would say that miracles are for those people who have little faith. Imimangaliso yabantu abanokholwa mina. Ngabantu abangakholwayo. Imimangaliso is designed for those who do not believe. So the best part about this, for them that who will not believe, we will perform a miracle. What is it that is in your hand? Uti Moses, it's a rod. Uti Chongake, as long as it is in your hand, it remains a rod. But throw it out. You coupe, you tule, let it go out there. You tule, if we had time, we are going to tackle that aspect. But unfortunately, I was full of emotion. But Uti, you tule, and when he started throwing out that rod, that straight, stiff, solid, unmoving rod, what Netma IT released, immediately it began to move. In fact, when you get to the palace, you will see that when it is thrown out, it even gets to a point of consuming or eating ezinye inyoka zakwa. So that miracle was performed strictly for those people abangazukholelwa, abazawuthi ngoku sele sithi it's me bangakholelwa. Miracles are designed for people who do not believe. Miracles are for people who have little faith. Mandi challenge. It is possible, Basaran, that we'll go through this valley of shadow of death. It is possible that we'll go through this pandemic with no sign and with no miracle. It is possible that we will be subjected to Isdo as means that will even confuse us at the worst of time. But the best part that we should know, Uchiko Wetu is patient with our little faith to a point that he is even at a place of putting miracles to help us believe, to make us believe. So apendleleni uzawuyenza imimangaliso so that abangakholwayo zabakholwe, kodwa amagorha nezinto ezomeleleyo in faith, they will trust him even when they cannot trace him. They will trust him even when they cannot trace him. I was going to rush to chapter 33 when Moses, after years, after days of chatting with God, having not seen him, when that edge finally came, Chawe, you know, when you're chatting with someone, instead of going to all via the phone, all via the WhatsApp and the mix of the Facebook, whatever, you get to a point where you feel like this relationship is so strong, the feeling, the bond between me and the other person in Ngolanaya is so strong to a point that I want to see you. I want to see you. Let me see your face. Let me see your face. Now God says to Moses, no one can see me. And if you're going to tap into that and the provision that God makes for Moses, how he puts his hand in front of Moses as he moves so that and allow Moses to see his back, and Moses was content. I was gonna run and go to a pressure that Moses, as a human being, as a leader, which was under pressure, we were gonna run and talk about how he missed the mark when God said, speak to the rock, how he hit the rock, and by so doing, the function came to him, and how he missed entering the promised land. But as I close, permit me to say, the role of Moses was to go and release Israel from Egypt. It was not to take Israel to the promised land. Let me say that again. We must be clear about our purpose. The purpose of Moses was to go and open the prison gates, was for him to go and release Israel and take Israel out of the bondage of Egypt. But it was not for Moses to take Israel into the promised land. So we need to be clear of our purpose so that we do not lose heart. Our role will conduct Bible studies, will preach to people, will do things, but yielding the actual result will be not our role to play. That after doing Bible studies year after year, so we must never at any stage, Ninja, at any stage, Pastor Mapumulo, at any stage, Chawe, sifune ukwenza into that is not what we called for. So be clear, Moses, your role is to take them out, and it ends here. When it ends here with Joshua, and the very same God of Moses will say to Joshua, as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. So that is our church. This story continues. This story is bigger than us. Our purpose is bigger than us. What we are called for is bigger than us. It will continue to be even when we are not there. But the gospel will carry on. Other people will arise and continue preaching the gospel. We inherit this gospel from our forefathers. We got this gospel from Odatumani, and we preach about this Jesus and the miracles that they performed with their God. And we also experience God in our lives and the miracle that he performs with us and in us in our time. But I assure you, even in generations to come, if Jesus is not back yet, this story will continue. This is not the end. It does not end in the wilderness. It does not end with the serpents. It does not end. It does not end. Bazalwane, this is not the end. The end will come when we enter the promised land, and that is certain. It will be hurtful, it will be painful, but this is not the end of the story. Surely some leaders that we are familiar with, that we have confidence in, we will lose them kule pandemic. But the gospel will continue, because this is not the end. Almost even if the pandemic, but until he reached with them the promised land, and we will continue waiting for that. God bless you.
Amen.
And I believe Uchawe upumile. I believe Uchawe upumile, and definitely, Pastor Mapumulo.
Yes. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless you. Appreciate for coming through, and thanks a million to all our viewers. May the Lord bless you. And Ngwenya, I think you are trying to come back in. Over to you.
No, bendithe ukhanyura ayivale nivale ngwenye noise level sekonakele kule ndawo ndikuyo.
All right. No, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming through this afternoon. May the Lord bless you. Let's see each other next week. I already see the part 4s and part 5s. I don't know what that means, but until then, stay blessed, stay faithful, stay healthy. God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.